Tremendous weekend of racing on tap. The Gotham card at Aqueduct came up a strong one. Some very, very good racing around the country as well. And it all comes together for a stellar cross-country pick five stake races, 2 at Tampa, 2 at Aqueduct, and we close it out with the Honeybee down at Oak Lawn Park. And we'll talk about all of those races in just a minute. And you know how you want to play it. You want to play it through NYRA bets. We'll match up to a $200 deposit. Use the promo code Big A. The action in the cross-country pick 5, it kicks off down at Tampa Bay with the Florida Oaks, and it's a very, very big field and an interesting race as well. Walk-in Marrakesh is going to take a lot of money in this race. Her first race since September, so she's been off for almost 6 months. Here she is losing by a dirty nose in the Natalma at Woodbine. And she ran well in here. And listen, Abscond, who won the race, is a talented runner. The horse who finished third, I don't know that we've seen her. Maybe she ran back in the Breeders' Cup. And actually, she beat Secret Stash, who's back in here, the number 10 in the Florida Oaks. You have to think that Walk-in Marrakesh, who switched as a very talented Nacho Correas for this race, is a player. But she's coming off a layoff. It's not an easy race. And while she's a horse I want to use, she has some serious competition this race. Now, a number of horses we're talking about, but one we're going to take a look at here is the number 8 Outburst. And to me, Outburst is an absolute A on your tickets. You know, you read in the paper, 4 wide gain, led, ridden out. And frequently you look at it and you go, I don't know if that horse was ridden out. Now, I think the horse is lugging in a bit and giving the rider some fits. And he's riding her a little bit to get to where she is. But look at how easily she wins this race once she makes the lead. The rider virtually stops riding her the last 16th of a mile. It's a very impressive performance, first time in the country. If she runs back to her and improves, and it doesn't hurt to pick up Javier Castellano, she's the one to beat. Now, some other horses you might want to have in your tickets. And as always, it comes down to how much you want to spend. And that's why I like the ABC method, where you can put together multiple tickets and give yourself your best chance to win if 3 or 4 of the horses that you like a lot are successful in the sequence. I think the one whose name I'm not going to be able to pronounce for George Arnold, Rusty Arnold, ran very well last time, and while, however you pronounce it, finished third behind Micheline, the number 12. Drawing the rail as opposed to the 12 is a big advantage, and I think she's a player. The 2 New York Groove tries the turf for the first time. Don't love her, not really a turf pedigree, but not a negative pedigree as she is a Verrazano. So I think she's dangerous in here as well. And another horse worth throwing in really goes on the outside, and that's Michelin. So I'm mostly focusing on the number 8 in the first leg, Outburst, but the 1, 2, 6, and 12 will be on my tickets somewhere. The second leg, we come back to the Big A, and this race is really all about the first 2 finishers in last year's Demoiselle, and we'll take a look at Lake Avenue dominating Medellin, and Lake Avenue is the horse to beat, and she's one of a number of very talented 3-year-old fillies in Bill Mott's barn, which includes Harvey's Little Goyle, who we're looking forward to hopefully seeing in our Gazelle. She had the run of this race. She was a bit wide in the first turn after breaking a hair slowly, but it was an extremely slow pace, but she won like a good horse. But I do think that Medellin, who in my opinion will benefit to cutting back to a 1-turn mile where she's run some terrific races, including her win in the Tempted here, her easy win on opening day last fall at Aqueduct. Medellin was compromised by the slow pace, yet was still able to get up for second. And while I do think that Lake Avenue is much the horse to beat, I don't think the gap is that big with Medellin as the 4 lengths suggests in the Demoiselle, and a much bigger price. She's a better play for me. I'm going to use the 4 Medellin and the 5 Lake Avenue as my main horses, and I really don't particularly like anybody else. I think Water White will run okay, switching back to a mile, but I have a trouble seeing the winner not be the first or second choices, the 4 and the 5. We now go back to Tampa Bay for the Tampa Bay Derby and the 3rd leg of this cross-country pick 5. Chance It and Sol Volante are the 2 favorites in here. And I'm not going to knock their talent. They are both good runners. And this is Chance It winning the Mucho Macho Man last time out. He scratched when he got the outside post in last week's Fountain of Youth to run here. He drew much better with post 4. Sol Volante was a distant 3rd, beaten just over 2 lengths. Not that he ran badly, and he really improved in his next start, taking the Sam Davis. But let's talk about Sol Volante. Is he going to get the kind of pace that he got in the Sam Davis? I do think the pace will be contentious in the Tampa Bay Derby, but it's hard to predict it's going to be as fast and contentious as the one in the Sam Davis. And I think his win was very much a function of the race dynamics. And while he's talented, and I wouldn't leave him off my tickets, he's a little bit dressed up. Chance It, I know Chance It has a big win, 2 back, going 2 turns at Gulfstream Park. But in a lot of ways, that was his worst effort. And I really think he's a horse that's probably topping out his best at a mile. Even last time, he was kind of hanging at the end after he had gotten by As Seen on TV. As Seen on TV did not run particularly well in the Fountain of Youth in his subsequent start. And while Chance It can win, just like Sol Volante can win, I think he's a little dressed up. Of the two, I prefer Sol Volante because I think he goes on and improves in these 2-turn races, but both of them are coming off of ideal circumstance wins. There are a number of maiden breakers here. Now, 2 for Todd Pletcher, the 1 Texas Swing and the 5 market analysis. And market analysis is getting a lot of press, and he may be okay. It's interesting to note, Todd Pletcher's numbers coming off of maiden wins in their second start, they're okay, but the ROI is not good. And horses coming off maiden wins and going into graded stakes have a poor record for Todd Pletcher. How about this one? In dirt routes, off of maiden wins, going into a graded stake over the last 5 years, Todd Pletcher, who has done nothing but succeed in these 3-year-old preps, is just 1 for 32. The horses that have succeeded have often and usually had much more experience. And of the maiden breakers, the one that I like is the 2 Spa City for Kieran McLaughlin. I really liked his last race where he beat Unrighteous, who's coming back as a maiden for Todd Pletcher. Now, I don't really like Unrighteous, though he's not impossible in here. I like Spa City, though. I think this is an improving horse. You look at his Beyer, 74, 83, 91, 6 furlongs, a mile and 1/8. He's got bottom. He improves at every start. And I think Spa City, who's going to be sitting about 4th or 5th early in this race, getting a good post, is a player in here. He's my top choice. So he's my A. The 4 and 7, I probably have chances of B. Sol Volante, possibly an A, depending on how much I have to spend. And a long shot I want to throw in. The 8, Let me know. I think Let Me Know is the name. Second off a layoff, got a prep at Tampa Bay behind the talented Gouverneur Morris, and he's the kind of horse for Ian Wilkes I think takes a big step forward. Might be a better use in your tries and supers, but as a long shot, he's a C for me in an excellent Tampa Bay Derby. The 4th leg of the cross-country Pick 5 is the big one in New York, the Gotham, and it really came up. A super strong race. When I show you the Swale, which Mischievous Alex was extremely impressive in victory, we have to look at the start of the race, because the start of the race involves the number 2 Untitled. And while it's very hard to get a good idea of what happened at the start, you know that Untitled was bounced around between horses, and a horse with a ton of speed was completely taken out of his game. So I can give him a big excuse for that race, and he came back with a big effort when second to Gouverneur Morris. Now, you can't knock Mischievous Alex, his second straight blowout win. But both of those, while he was able to get comfortable towards the front end. And are we sure that's going to happen here? Because not only does Sixto, to his outside, the maiden breaker for Eric Gio, have speed, but Untitled doesn't figure to keep getting left, and Untitled is going from the outside. So Mischievous Alex, while an A for me, is going to get a much sterner test. But listen, these are Kentucky Derby preps. You want to get sterner tests. Now, as far as Untitled, he's probably a B for me, maybe a C, but more likely a B, because I know he's good enough. But this is just his 3rd race in 35 days. He is putting a lot of races together in a short period of time, and I'm not 100% comfortable, especially given a likely fast pace, that he's going to keep delivering these top efforts. The Montauk Traffic, a dangerous horse coming off his win in the Jimmy Winkfield for Linda Rice. He's a bit of a rail runner, which is to his advantage in that he can save ground, he can run inside of horses, and he got a very good trip and ride here. But it's not as though other horses were closing. He's the only horse picking up ground, and he's going to get pace in the Gotham, and a 1-turn mile should suit him very, very well. He has to get faster, though. That's what concerns me. And so while he's on my play somewhere, probably a B to a C, I think he has to get better. There are other horses in here that I wonder about. The impressive maiden breaker Warstopper. Now, the horse who finished second to him ran 7 Beyer points lower, but it still means Warstopper can run mid to high 80s, which puts him in the ballgame here, and I don't think he should be dismissed. The horse I'm very interested, though, in this race is the number 5 Necker Island, going out for Stan Huff. He showed real promise as a 2-year-old and showed the potential if he took a step forward, he could be a player in 3-year-old races. So what happened to Swale? Well, in a race dominating the front end, he found himself 5 wide the whole way, trying to gain ground from the back of the pack. It just was a trip that gave him no chance. He's talented enough. If Stan Huff thinks enough of him to bring him to New York, I'm going to give him a shot at a big price, and he's a big player on my tickets. Not a big fan of attachment rate. don't take his last race at face value. Obviously, those times are inaccurate. It's impossible, and when I say impossible, I mean impossible for a horse to have gone 21-1 and 44, going a mile at Gulfstream where there's virtually no run-up. That race is not as fast as it looks. Not that he's untalented, but his last race dresses him up a little bit. Very, very interesting race. 5 and 6 are A's for me. Probably the 8 Montauk Traffic is a B, and horses like the 3 War Stopper and the 10 Untitled are C's, once again, depending on what your bankroll is. Moving on to the 5th and final leg of this oh-so-interesting cross-country Pick 5, we'll look at the Honeybee down at Oaklawn Park, and the first thing we'll do is we'll take a look at the speed. And the speed is the number 4 ringleader who ran very well last time winning the Dixie Belle. Now keep in mind, it was a 5-horse field. The heavy favorite to finish second had a bit of a trouble trip after getting left, and I don't know how super strong a race it was, but from a speed figure standpoint, it was good enough to win here. And an encouraging thing is that his trainer, McLean Robertson, has terrific numbers stretching out in the dirt. He's a 27% trainer with 107 starts and a 241 ROI over the last 5 years stretching out, and off wins, he's 5 for 13. So it's a move that works for him, and ringleader is an A for me. The 5 Alta's Award, though, is my top choice, and the other A for me. And I may end up having to live and die with these 2 horses. I don't think it's any secret that Steve Asmussen knows what he's doing, especially with routers as he's prepping them through their 3-year-old towards their 4-year-old season. And it looks to me like Alta's Award is getting better with every start. There's nothing wrong with the horse that finished second behind her in that race. I think that Alta's Reward is the distance horse you can count on. She has the speed to put herself in the game. I think she won't be badly compromised and perhaps stalking the 4 ringleader, and I prefer Alta's Reward in this race. Award, excuse me. The number 3 Turtle Tracks has a shot, I thought, for Ian Wilkes. Second off a layoff, looked to improve, and would be a B or C, once again, depending on how much I put into the play. I'm not a fan of the number 2, She Dares the Devil, who I think's last race is not necessarily as good as that 77 buyer suggests, but it's a fun and open running of the Honeybee on what is an absolutely terrific sequence of races in this week's cross-country Pick 5. 2 from Tampa, 2 from Aqueduct, and we close it out at Oaklawn Park. Excellent sequence. You want to get involved. 5 stakes, 4 of them graded. And the best way to play? You know what the best way to play is. Play it through NYRA Bets. Head on over to NYRABets.com. We'll match up to a $200 deposit bonus and use the promo code Big A. Best of luck in all of this weekend's races, and particularly the cross-country Pick 5.